Tonight, a boil water alert still active for Greater Darwin as work continues at the River Dam pump station. And severe flooding continues to ravage the top end, with locals pulling together to help where they can. Good evening, I'm Dowling. This is ABC News, Northern Territory. Also tonight, more Iranian soccer players choose to remain in Australia, but one changes her mind. A Darwin woman takes on her bank after scammers empty her account. And the AFL's illicit drugs code is set for a major shake-up with stricter rules enforced. As we go to air tonight, Territorians are still grappling with major flooding across the top end, with multiple communities impacted and hundreds of people stuck in evacuation centres. Capital City residents are in their second day of a water boil alert, with a huge coordinated effort ongoing to repair the Darwin River Dam. Vision is only just emerging from the streets surrounding the dam as it spilled, with more than a dozen homes underwater. Heavy rainfall and persistent high river levels are hindering clean-up efforts in parts of Katherine, where the flood emergency began last week. The Daly River is expected to peak late this evening, with levels already higher than the previous record in 1957. We start our coverage in Darwin, where experts are working to restore clean drinking water to the city.
A call for Darwin residents to limit water use lifted late this afternoon, with overnight work at the Darwin River Dam pump station paying off.
We've got 54 people dedicated to bringing the pump station back online, including 20 technical staff and contractors who worked through the night last night under floodlight in particularly horrendous conditions.
Today, 2 of 4 pumps are up and running on temporary generators, with power and water staff carving temporary roads to get them through. Water supply for Greater Darwin is currently part bore water, sourced near septic tanks. And while initial tests showed no contamination, the whole region is still on a boil water alert, pending further testing.
And that is a precautionary measure to make sure that we remove risk from the system. It has been a very trying couple of weeks, and the last thing we need on top of that is an outbreak of gastroenteritis to complicate things for residents of Darwin and Palmerston region.
The boil water alert, which came into place yesterday for the Greater Darwin region, means all water must be boiled before consumption. This includes for brushing teeth and for cleaning babies' bottles. The shock alert leaving supermarket shelves bare, local water parks shut and sports matches cancelled. The timeline for a return to normality still unclear.
At this stage, our estimate is for up to 5 days. We're obviously throwing everything at this to get it connected as quickly as possible. We hope we can do it sooner.
A capital city on alert in unprecedented times. Tilda Colling, ABC News.
For families directly in the line of the Darwin River flood, returning to normality will take far longer, with up to 20 homes either severely damaged or lost.
Our whole life washed down the river.
Receding floodwaters revealing a permanent stain.
Yeah, the water's come right up. The washing machine's floated out.
So everything's been drowned, it's covered in mud and absolutely destroyed. My daughter has nothing. I don't know where to start to rebuild. We just need help.
2 days ago, Darwin's rural area flooded in just a few hours.
Crazy amounts of water these days. Fences down, houses under.
Waiting for help that never arrived, Jake Elsgood and his heavily pregnant wife Jasmine made a tough decision and put their daughter in a life vest.
When we left, we waited water. It was up to here. It's just so strong. My four-wheel drive died in the driveway. We didn't even make it out. We had to swim out. Our neighbour swam across the creek and swam us out.
All his mother-in-law could do was watch on.
It was the most terrifying, just to watch that and be scared that, there's crocodiles in this water. The current was so strong and Yeah, it's just really scary, and to have no contact whatsoever from emergency services who said they would keep us updated.
Up to 20 homes have been reportedly severely damaged, maybe even lost. Many uninsured. The family of 6 estimate they've lost $150,000 in possessions alone. Residents here have taken aim at the Territory's government, saying they were given no warning about the severity of this flash flooding, leaving them with little time to try and protect their belongings and to evacuate safely.
No, heard nothing. And, you know, I'm sort of somewhat aware of what could happen.
Authorities insisting they did provide adequate notice.
My understanding that there was a flood alert for that area, as well as severe storm warnings alert.
Little comfort for those who have lost so much. Courtney Barrett-Peters, ABC News, Darwin.
Further south, locals still cut off by floodwaters around Katherine are relying on each other for essential supplies and support. Meanwhile, emergency services are preparing for more rain.
A tinny turned taxi and grocery delivery service.
Pretty hectic, eh? Like a lot of people, like we were sort of surprised with how many people actually needed a hand on this side of the creek, and not being able to get food and water and supplies.
Local tradies doing more than their bit to help families cut off from the main town. Residents along Florina Road in Catherine's West have been isolated since Friday. A 15-minute drive to the shops, now an hour-long round trip by boat.
You guys going to add chauffeur or taxi driver to your resumes after this?
Might have to paint the tinny yellow.
We've been 6 days now isolated, so we weren't able to get as many supplies as we would have liked to. We couldn't even get a trolley at Woolies, so we just grabbed what we could.
Community spirit is high, but the isolation is starting to grate.
We're just wet and stuck.
Pretty bored. There's not that much to do except go down to the water.
They say more help is desperately needed.
It was just about logistically trying to get that done. They had to abort those food drops that they did do to Rocco and Binjari the other day because of the weather.
Back in town, exhausted SES volunteers trying to keep up after more rain overnight prompted fresh warnings for Beswick and Katherine.
Everything's just flaring up one after the other. It's just trying to catch a breath where we can and getting back out there.
As this disaster drags on, there have been efforts to get people back on their feet. Pop-up schools have been stood up and hundreds have been queuing to access disaster payments. But for those forced to flee their homes, both here and further north, it remains an uncertain time.
We do have a lot of welfare and liaison officers working with those people. The vision of their communities at the moment, it has been quite difficult due to the substantial level of water that is around to be able to get those aerial shots and get the survey rescue teams in to give them that information.
The wet season usually a welcome reprieve from the heat, but this relentless rain is leaving residents weary. Well, at least it's human ones. Olivana Lathouris, ABC News, Katherine.
With the various ongoing emergencies, we're getting lots of questions coming through to the ABC. Here to answer some of them is Treasurer and Infrastructure Minister Bill Yan, who was on site of the troubled Darwin River Dam last night. Firstly, just on the dam, can you provide us a bit of an update on the situation on the dam's pump station?
Yeah, I'm glad to. Last night, the teams from Power and Water got one of the pumps back up and running, providing water into Darwin, and just this afternoon they've managed to get a generator in and get the second pump up and running, which will supply Darwin's needs. And what that means for the people of Darwin is that water restrictions have ended, so you can get out and have a decent shower now. But the boiling water need is still in place until tomorrow. We're testing the water quality at the moment. We'll know tomorrow afternoon about lunchtime, and then the show will be able to make that decision on whether we continue to boil our water or we don't have to.
And obviously early days right now, but do you have any idea of sort of the cost for repairs at the moment for the station?
Yeah, look, it's very, very early days. They're still assessing the extent of the damage. When I was there last night, to see the amount of electrics and electronics that were damaged and the work that the team did to get a pump up and running, and then the second one was phenomenal. But I think it's going to be probably a week or two before we get a full idea of the extent of the damage.
And still an evolving situation, but at what point will you start to sort of look at the infrastructure around here and, I guess sort of helping to ensure situations like this are mitigated or don't potentially happen.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And funnily enough, those discussions were happening last night. So I'm out there with people from Power and Water and the techs and all the contractors, and we're actually looking at the site. And one of the discussion points was, what do we do now to make sure that we mitigate some of these issues into the future? Because obviously water infrastructure is critical to the supply of Darwin, so we must make sure that we've got that supply locked down and mitigate any future damage from flood events.
And just finally, obviously we're getting support for flood-affected people with relief payments. For those Territorians, what sort of disaster relief payments are available and who's actually eligible?
Yeah, there's about $600 per adult, $300 per child. I think it's capped at around about $1,500 per family. There's also, for those that are affected in those disaster areas, there's recovery payments of about $8,800 to replace white goods and furniture for those in those areas. So as we get the places locked down as to which are in a disaster area, we'll be standing up the centres like we have in Katherine, where people can go, make sure you bring your ID and you can apply for those payments. So we're working very closely with the Commonwealth to make sure that those payments are delivered as fast as we can.
Dilian, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely a pleasure.
In Parliament today, the Speaker of the House delivered a scathing criticism of the CLP's Tanzil Rahman a month after the ABC revealed bullying allegations brought against him. Despite those claims and other allegations against other high-ranking ministers, the government refused to adopt a behaviour code.
Last weekend, the member for Fong Lim pushed back on media reports of bullying allegations levelled against him late last year. Today, the Speaker of the House weighing in with her view.
You could have acknowledged that your conduct caused distress. You could have expressed genuine remorse. You did not need a formal process or a direction from this chair, me, to do anything of that. You simply needed the courage to say, I'm sorry, and you did not say that. You apparently have reached for your lawyers instead.
Not long after that, a motion from independent MLA Justine Davis urging the government to implement a behaviour code for members of Parliament, recounting one damning allegation about Deputy Chief Minister Gerard Maley's behaviour towards opposition leader Selina Yubo.
The same Deputy Chief Minister taunting the Leader of the Opposition with, "You're a loser," over and over again, while she talked about her family history of the stolen generation. Let me say that again. While a member of this chamber is talking about one of the most harmful and shameful episodes in our history and how it impacted on her and her own family, the Deputy Leader of our government is calling across the chamber, "You're a loser."
The Deputy Chief Minister did not respond to the allegation, but said he agrees with Davis's motion in principle.
Everyone deserves a safe, respectful and professional environment, and that extends across all industries.
In the end, the government passed an amended version of the motion, removing any mention of a behaviour code or code of conduct. Joseph Hathaway-Wilson, ABC News.
It's every Australian traveller's nightmare, getting scammed while overseas and bank accounts drained. That's what happened to a Darwin woman who was forced to fight her bank, ING, to eventually reimburse her the tens of thousands of dollars it failed to stop a scammer from stealing.
Trying to log into her bank account while abroad, Claudia Lee became the unsuspecting victim of a scam.
It was devastating. It was crazy because it's the sort of thing that I would have never thought could happen to me.
Travelling in Central America, Ms. Lee was duped by a text which led to a fake ING bank website where she entered her details. A couple of days later, she made an alarming discovery.
I checked my savings account and it had been fully drained. $48,000 had been taken out of it and I was left with 39 cents.
Her legal team argued ING had missed multiple red flags, allowing the scammer to access Ms. Lee's account and take her money.
Within 24 to 48 hours, all of Claudia's contact details had been changed, a joint account had been opened in her name, the transaction limit had been raised from $5,000 to above $20,000. All of that happened without the bank having spoken to Claudia.
ING refused to admit it was at fault until it was taken to regulator, the Australian Financial Complaints Authority, which ordered it to repay Ms. Lee the entire amount plus compensation.
If you're not detecting something as blatant as that, it makes you wonder what ING does detect.
This cybersecurity expert wants more onus put on banks to protect their customers.
I would suggest the regulators should come hard on banks, making sure that if there are any money is being lost, and the bank should be made accountable for that. They are safeguarding our money and it is their responsibility.
In a statement, an ING spokesperson said they should have engaged differently with Ms Lee and apologised, but did not say if any specific security processes had been changed since the case. A federal government spokesperson said a scams prevention framework will roll out this year, aimed at placing responsibility on banks and other sectors to do more to prevent, detect and respond to scams for Australians at home and overseas.
As these scams are becoming more sophisticated, it doesn't feel like the protections are becoming better for everyday people.
Not surprisingly, she's no longer a customer with ING and ever more wary of the dangers lurking online. Matt Garrick, ABC News, Darwin.
A dramatic change of heart. One of the Iranian soccer players granted asylum has reversed her decision and now plans to return home. In doing so, she exposed the location of 6 teammates who chose to stay in Australia, forcing the government to intervene. Jane Norman explains.
Frantic and fearful, supporters stake out Sydney Airport.
Please help them. They're going to their death with their families.
Hoping to intercept the Iranian athletes in their final moments on Australian soil.
We came here since 3:30 today to actually save them.
They watched on as the team touched down, only to be bussed to the next terminal. Passengers with them on the plane aware of the drama.
The captain made a beautiful announcement and said how brave they were. The whole plane broke out in applause for them. So it was actually really moving.
Little did they know 2 more women had been granted refuge, joining the other 5 who'd already escaped. And an extraordinary effort was underway to help the rest.
There was no rushing. There was no pressure.
After clearing customs, each remaining player and most support staff were offered asylum, interviewed without minders and given the chance to call their families back in Iran. In the end, one woman wavered before getting on the plane, but no one took up the offer.
Australia's objective here was not to force people to make a particular decision. We're not that sort of nation.
Late today, another twist. Tony Burke telling Parliament one of the women granted asylum overnight reversed her decision today. She wasn't coerced, according to the minister, but she inadvertently gave up the location of the other 6 women when she contacted the Iranian embassy to collect her.
I immediately gave the instruction for people to be moved.
The 6 players now contemplating their new lives, Australia's football community standing by to help.
I think we're trying to do as much as we can, not as players, but as a country in general, to support them.
As the remaining members made their way home via Malaysia, a regime spokesperson accused Australia of holding their athletes hostage and tweeted to the others, "Don't worry, Iran awaits you with open arms." Their fate now in the hands of a brutal regime. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
The United States says it's intensifying its attacks on Iran as it faces further questions about how long the conflict will run. Israel's bombardment of Lebanon also shows no sign of easing, with hundreds of thousands of people forced from their homes. Matthew Dawn reports from Haifa near the Israel-Lebanon border.
The Iranian city of Tabriz under attack. The US and Israel striking targets across the country. The window of this car west of Tehran shattered by the shockwaves of a blast. Look at all the smoke, this woman says on the other side of the capital. It's very close.
Today will be, yet again, our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes.
Near the crucial Strait of Hormuz, the US says it's taken out more than a dozen Iranian mine-laying vessels. But there's been more mixed messaging from the Trump administration, with the Energy Secretary claiming on social media that the US Navy had escorted an oil tanker through the strait, before deleting the post.
I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though of course that's an option the President has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
In Lebanon, Israel has again targeted the capital, Beirut. Its strikes against the Iranian-backed Hezbollah now estimated to have displaced nearly 700,000 people.
I'm living outside my home, heartbroken and deeply distressed.
Across the border in northern Israel, the IDF's machinery is on display. Tanks and troops deployed to the area and moving beyond the border fence into already bombed-out Lebanese towns and villages. Even though this conflict with Hezbollah has been reignited amidst a broader regional conflict, there is a feeling that this front could rage on for much, much longer, even after Donald Trump calls time on his strikes on Iran.
He gets to control the throttle. He's the one deciding. He's the one elected on behalf of the American people.
No clarity yet on how long the president's mission will take. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Haifa.
To finance now, and the Australian dollar jumped today as the market predicts a rate hike next week. Here's Alan Kohler.
What's bumped markets and most economists off the interest rate fence was an interview with Reserve Bank Deputy Governor Andrew Hawser by veteran political journalist Michelle Grattan, which was published on the RBA website last night. The interview was lined up 3 weeks ago, but it turned out to be conveniently timed for the RBA because it was able to set markets straight. Here's a quote from it. It's important to take steps to bring inflation back to target from its too high level at the moment. People should be in no doubt about their commitment to do that. So overall, it was taken to be a sabre-rattling speech, and in the course of an hour or so, the market odds of a rate hike next Tuesday went from 30% to more than 60%. In the past 3 months, the futures market and economists have gone from expecting rate cuts this year to expecting 2 hikes at least. And the impact of the Hawser interview can be seen in the Aussie dollar, which was 70.6 US cents this time last night and is now 71.6, with 72 in its sights. So, stand by for mortgage repayments to go further in the direction of the cost of fuel. This graph is the national average petrol price, up 50% in less than a month. The oil price was 50% higher at one stage, but is now up 28%. So something like that should happen to petrol and diesel. If it doesn't, you might want to dust off your local member's email address. The share market closed high without a lot of conviction. Rare earths companies came into focus after Lynas announced a new offtake agreement with Japan, and the happiness rubbed off on others like Arafura. The US market slipped a bit while the Japanese and Korean markets had another strong gain. And finally, commodities were relatively peaceful, unlike the Middle East, with oil and precious metals down slightly and base metals and iron ore up. And that was finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, pain at the petrol pump. How long will the oil shock from the Iran war last?
I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply.
I'm not quite sure how he's going to do it. The corridor for the ships is only 2 nautical miles in and out, so it's quite narrow.
If we see a prolonged disruption here, you're still looking at quite high oil prices for a prolonged period of time.
The union representing AFL players has confirmed the league's illicit drugs code is set for a major shake-up. The 3 strikes policy will be abandoned and stricter rules enforced, with the AFLW to be included for the first time.
A drug code that's never been enforced publicly. For more than 2 decades, AFL players who test positive to illicit drugs have faced a 3 strikes policy. But in that time, not one player has ever been struck out.
We'll move on from strikes.
Under the league's revised drug code, the 3 strikes policy will be removed. Urine testing will be phased out and hair testing will become a key feature. The code will include AFLW players for the first time.
The intent always has been to find a contemporary approach to the medical management of players using illicit drugs.
The Players' Union says it's still working with the AFL to iron out the final creases in the policy. But under hair testing, it will be tougher for players to avoid getting caught. And if they do, there'll be a more stringent medical program.
And then hold them accountable to that support, so that if you are getting help, there's a responsibility that you take up that help.
It's great that we're having those discussions and those conversations around, is it working, is it not, if guys are slipping through the cracks.
So at the moment, I think there's some balls in the air. Once that happens, then we'll have a discussion about what that looks like.
But it's not the drugs code that's causing problems for Sam Mitchell. He's leapt to the defence of Dylan Moore and Connor McDonald after the pair spent a night in an Arizona jail in November for alleged trespassing while out drinking in the off-season.
I was very disappointed first hearing about it, but it was a few months ago now, and they have done every single thing that you would expect of them since then.
An unwelcome distraction 2 days out from round one. Tom Maddox, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Ashes rivalry usually plays out on cricket pitches, but two heavy hitters have taken the battle somewhere unexpected, the discus circle. Australia's Matt Denny and England's Lawrence Okoye are fierce opponents on the global stage, but in Brisbane, they're pushing each other to new heights.
International rivals turned training partners.
Come on! Hey! Come on! Here we go, he's in the game.
Well, Denny just challenged me to come out here. He just said, hey, just come out. And I said, you know what, like the first year I came out for about 6 weeks.
Now it's an annual migration from South London for Lawrence Okoye to Brisbane's purpose-built National Throws Centre of Excellence.
But he hates England though. Yeah. He hates England.
I don't hate it.
He hates England. We'll just say Australian weather is pretty good. Yeah. Our summers aren't quite the same.
In a sport that's often a lonely pursuit, the partnership is paying off.
I definitely notice my level always raises.
Even though you do try as hard as you can, that extra extrinsic motivation, having someone throwing far next to you just brings something out of you that you can't do on your own. So, like, we're both smashing training right now.
The sessions competitive, the cricket banter constant.
Well, it's nice when I can come into the gym and absolutely sledge him that we're up.
Yeah, we had a tough summer for sure.
Later this year, the jokes will stop briefly at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow.
It's been a barrage in Birmingham for Matthew Denny.
The duo are the reigning gold and silver medalists from 2022.
He kind of spanked me, to be honest. He beat me by 2.5 metres. So,
all 6 throws, hey?
Yeah,
something like that.
So
who's counting?
He got me good, But that was, I feel like since then, I've progressed a lot.
Denny is embracing the challenge.
I don't feel pressure for it. I think just more accountability on throwing what I'm capable is more where I'm at the moment, because I know if I do that, then that will most likely, end in a win.
Jessica Stewart, ABC News, Brisbane.
And now to the weather, and tonight's weather pic of a Mindle Beach sunset has been sent in by Maddie Schiller. And you can send us your weather photos to weatherpicsnt@abc.net.au. There was isolated heavy rain and storms in the top end overnight and early today. It was 30 in Darwin, 32 for Berry Springs. Zooming out, 30 for Katherine and 32 in Nhulunbuy and Borroloola. 34 degrees the top in Alice Springs and Tennant Creek, and 37 for Yalara. On the satellite, clouds with embedded storms still stretching across the north of the country around a trough and a low over the top end. A trough is lingering across the northern tropics with an embedded low over the top end. Interstate tomorrow, a shower or two and becoming windy in Hobart. 19 the top for Melbourne, clear skies for Canberra. In Sydney, 27 degrees, sunny conditions in Brisbane, cloudy for Adelaide, and for Perth, they're reaching a top of 29 degrees. Around the Territory tomorrow, Alice Springs, a bit of cloud and 35, 36 for Ali Currung, and in Tennant Creek, increasing showers and a storm. Looking north, showers and a storm developing in Katherine, and a chance of a storm for Borroloola and Bullman. And heading west, a possible afternoon storm for Warramayunga, and for Darwin, showers tomorrow with a top of 31 degrees. A flood watch continues for large parts of the top end, with flooding occurring in that area and more flooding possible with a chance of moderate rain ahead. A major flood warning continues for Daly River, with those significant river levels continuing to rise. There's a moderate flood warning for Katherine River, with renewed moderate flooding occurring at Katherine Bridge. And there's a morning high tide at 11:40 and a low tide at 3:51 in the afternoon. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:49 and set just after 7 o'clock. And looking ahead for Darwin, showers and storms are expected to hang around through the week, with rainfall possibly picking up on Friday. And for Alice, warm and sunny days ahead. Alice Springs could see showers and some storms over the weekend though. And staying with us now, Sarah Ferguson is up next with 7:30. Good night.